Good afternoon. Welcome to Emory University's Goizueta Full-Time MBA web chat. Today we're going to be talking about fueling your career with Goizueta's one-year MBA. I'm Nicole Hitpass, Director of Program Marketing at the Business School here. And just a few housekeeping items before I have my counterparts here introduce themselves. The web chat is scheduled for 1 hour. We want it to be interactive, so please submit your questions at any time during the web chat. We'll do our best to answer them live during the hour. We also have some folks behind the scenes that will also be helping to answer your questions. The web chat is being recorded, and we will send the full recording to you within a week of today's session. So I'm going to turn over to Maureen.
Great. Welcome. Hello. My name is Maureen Mannion-Leone, and I am the director for the CMC for the full-time program. So that is both the 1 and the 2-year program. Happy to be here with you today.
Hi, I'm Bianca Warner. I just graduated the 1-year program this past May, and I'm currently working at Intercontinental Hotels Group.
Thanks to you, both of you. So many of you have already submitted questions when you registered for the web chat, so we're going to start by answering a few of them, and then we'll get into any new questions that you submit during the hour. So Maureen, if you can just talk a little bit about how career paths differ for students who enter the 1-year program versus the 2-year MBA.
Absolutely. So the 1-year and the 2-year program have very different career paths. The most obvious is that the 1-year program does not have an internship. So as a 1-year, you have to come in and be very prepared to recruit in the fall. So the main period of recruiting for a 1-year student is during the fall of their first year. So you would be starting the program in May, you would have the summer to prepare, and then you would be recruiting for on-campus recruiting in the fall, and then recruiting also happens in the springtime, but the main focus for on-campus is the fall timeframe.
Great. Now, Bianca, you obviously chose the 1-year program. Can you talk a little bit about why you decided to come into the 1-year program, what your career goals were?
Sure. So when I was, before I started the program, I had been working in sales in the hospitality industry, and I knew I wanted to come back to school and get my MBA. I wasn't really wanting to make a big career jump, so I was looking to do more of like a marketing strategy type focus. And so I also was looking at 1-year programs because I was really kind of ready to get back to work. And so this just kind of seemed like an obvious choice with the 1-year program, not really needing that internship portion and still having all of the same opportunities as a 2-year program with recruitment, international studies, and the alumni network.
Terrific. So one of the great things about our Career Management Center is that once you decide to come to Goizueta, you instantly get access to them. So before you even step on campus for a class, you can use the resources they have available. So Maureen, you want to talk a little bit about how you initially engaged?
Sure, absolutely. So as Nicole mentioned, once you decide that you want to be part of the Goizueta family, we will reach out to you. So once you have your first deposit, we receive your deposit, we'll send a welcome email to you. And in that email, we'll ask you some questions about the types of opportunities and career choices that you are interested in. And we also gauge your interest in different areas. And with that information, we're able to match you to a coach. So even before you come on campus, you'll have someone that you can directly reach out to and speak to about your career goals. Also, before you come to campus, you'll be working on your resume. So it's really important. Obviously, that's your biggest marketing tool as an MBA. So you will be working on your resume. We have a special service that we use called BMOC, which is really helpful and helps you develop a resume that is appropriate for an MBA level student. And so you'll work on that a bit before you come in also. So we have a portal that everything's online where you can also learn about different career paths. You can connect to your coaches, you can work on your resume, and there's also a few different assignments that you'll need to complete before arriving on campus in May.
Terrific. Bianca, tell us a little bit about your initial reactions and how you leveraged your career coach.
So I was very surprised when I got on campus just how engaging the CMC was with the students from the very get-go. So as Maureen was saying, right when we got on campus, you get your coach and you go and work with them on your resume, You immediately are doing mock interviews to like really get you prepared during the summer for fall recruitment. I also joined through the consortium, so that was another extra opportunity to participate in certain different conferences throughout the summer. So really starting from May with your career coach just helps you prepare even the next month in June.
Terrific. So, Maureen, you've talked a little bit about some of the services that you provide. Do you want to talk a little bit more about just how the Career Management Center works in general with each student?
Sure. Well, one important thing I mentioned before was the career coach. So it's really important to us that each student has individual attention. Everyone is different, has different career goals, comes in with different expectations, different things they're interested in. So it's really important for us to match you with someone so you have someone to talk to and can help you kind of craft a plan so you can be successful in your career goals. Other things we do during the summer, so during your first block when you're here in the summer, we will have a class where we meet with you. It's integrated in the curriculum, so it's not outside of your classes. It's actually one of your classes called Professional Development. During that class, we talk about all the things you need to do to be successful in MBA recruiting. Many students come in thinking, oh, I don't need to work on that, or I don't need to do that. But we've learned through years there are some very specific things that you need to do to be successful in the MBA career space. So we spend a lot of time doing workshops, doing mock interviews, as Bianca mentioned, just practicing different skills that students need to be successful in the MBA career space. Throughout the year, you also have access to your coach. So once you're matched with someone, you can meet with them or you can meet with other folks at the Career Management Center. There's no limit to the number of times you can interact or come into the office. In fact, we prefer students come in more so we can help them and help guide them and share with them what their timeline is. So that's something else that's really important with understanding your career and being successful, is that you really understand when you should be recruiting. Some recruiting happens in the fall, the majority of on campus, but other folks that are interested in other areas might be the time they might be recruiting more, or have most of their interviews might be a different time of year. So we're sure to meet with you and to communicate those important timelines so that you have the personalized attention that you need to be successful.
So you mentioned the importance of timelines and all the services and all the activities that are available for professional development. The program's 12 months long. How do students balance that, their studies, and taking advantage of their career resources to find a new job in just 12 months?
It's challenging, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, 100% challenging.
I mean, Bianca, chime in. I'm sure that you've been through this this past year. I mean, how did you juggle all that?
I would say, obviously, that first summer is the most intense. I mean, you're basically cramming the first year of a 2-year program into 3 months. So, it's intense, but if you're used to a full-time job, this becomes your full-time job. Going to class, getting your resume ready. And once the fall hits, you kind of merge into kind of the 2-year program. Mm-hmm. And at that point, you're given ample opportunity to choose the classes that you want, really start developing like your focus if you might be changing career paths or, figuring out what exactly it is you want to do. That's when a lot of the recruitment events start. So, it's challenging, but it becomes your job, and you just have to remember that it's a stepping stone in your career, and will get you where you want to be.
So there's obviously a lot of on-campus recruiting. You've both mentioned that. How do our one-year students typically find their jobs? Is it through those on-campus recruiting? Are there other avenues that they find jobs?
There's quite a few avenues. So on-campus recruiting is one way, and usually anywhere between 30 to 40% of our one-years find their job through that avenue. But there's also important things such as MBA career conferences, which, depending on what you're interested in, could be a really good opportunity for you to go to. So things like National Black MBA, which is open to all students. That's a great place to go, for example, if you're interested in marketing. So it really depends what you're interested in as to as to what fits your career path. And that's why I mentioned before, it's really important to share with the CMC what you're interested in your target companies, so we can help kind of guide you as to which, what you should be going to. Other things that students do, networking is a really important part of MBA recruiting. So it might not be that your job is here on campus, but we might have an alum that is working in the area that you're interested in at one of your target companies. So we really utilize our alums. We have events with them, we have lunches with them, where especially in the springtime we'll organize happy hours, lunches, whatever we can do to have students interact with our alumni network so they can talk to students about different roles and help them through the recruiting process. So there are quite a few students who do the springtime recruiting, especially in the one-year class. We have a lot of students that typically want to be in the Atlanta area. So we make sure that we create events that are opportunities for students to meet with alumni and really take advantage of our strong alumni network.
Bianca, how did you ultimately find the job that you're in now?
So my recruiting all happened in the spring. I attended everything Maureen said. I went to the conferences, I did on-campus recruiting, had coffee chats with alumni. I think a big important part that some people sometimes miss is I found my job through one of my classmates. So his fiance actually worked at Intercontinental Hotels Group. So just talking to him, and he introduced me to his fiance, and she just passed my resume along, and that's how I got my job. So it's really important just to make sure to, the alumni network is great, but you also have all of your classmates who are a huge support system and come from companies that you might be interested in, or have friends or family who work in certain places.
Yeah, that's a great point. So obviously there's probably a lot of diversity among where our students are going in terms of industry and job function. You want to talk a little bit on that and where are typical placements for one-year students?
Sure. So our one-year students often have multiple offers. So recruiters are very happy to see them for full-time recruiting. So the two-year class obviously has an internship, but when they come back for full-time recruiting, many of the companies have seen two-year students before, but they're really excited to see these fresh faces over the summer, networking with them, and see them in the fall for recruiting. So there's, I would say, about 30% end up in consulting through that fall recruiting. Students also end up recruiting for marketing, as you did. They look at, there's finance opportunities, which are those are a little bit narrower, but there's actually, it's hard for me to even say because there's something for everyone. I know I can't stress this enough about the one-year class. Everyone really is an individual, and we work with them and whatever their career goals are. But in the past, we have seen a lot of students go through full-time recruiting in the fall and get consulting internships. So that's a big portion of the class.
So we had a great question come in from one of our viewers, and it was about international students, because so much happens before students come on campus and throughout the one-year program. Are international students able to leverage those resources as well? We treat, as I mentioned before, we treat every student as an individual. So our international students have the same resources that our full-time students have. We have international students in the one-year class that go through fall recruiting. We have ones that recruit in the spring, as Bianca did. So they get the same type of laser focus that all the other students get. And we don't, for me, I don't think of them as any different. They're really, an important part of our community. So we help them try and, meet whatever their particular career goal is. So going back a little bit about job functions and industries and career goals in general, a lot of our students go into kind of traditional MBA fields, right? The consulting, marketing, finance. What about people who are looking to do something a little more specialized? What kind of resources do you guys offer, or how is their career search different?
Right. So we have 4 coaches that work with the one-year students. So coaches are typically aligned by function. So we have coaches in those areas you spoke about, consulting, marketing, as well as finance. And we have a 4th coach who specializes in some of those other areas, such as healthcare, operations, hospitality, real estate. So we understand that students have different career goals, and we have someone that is equipped to interact with those students and help those students understand the best method for pursuing whatever their career goal is.
How do you guys actually match up your coaches with the students' career goals?
We match them with whatever students tell us. So that's why it's important when we first reach out to students that they let us know what they're thinking about. And we match them with the coach that's most appropriate for them functionally. But that's not to say that if you're matched with one coach, you can't meet with another. So we understand that sometimes people have a certain personality that fits better with someone else. So any student is welcome to meet with whichever coach they prefer. But we see sometimes students talk to one coach for one thing, and then if they're interested in recruiting for something else, they might meet with the other coach too. So we see students utilize multiple coaches too, depending on what their career goals are.
Great. What about those students who either are unsure coming in what they want to do, or they come in with one idea and they start exploring other opportunities while in the program and decide to change? How does that look for them?
We see students change idea all the time. You might be in a class that really inspires you, and you say, hey, this is really what I've been looking for all along. So we're prepared to do that. It happens quite frequently. And as I mentioned, it's important, though, that students communicate if they have a change of plan or if they decide to change direction, and let us know at the Career Management Center so we can best prepare them and let them know what their new timeline looks like, when they should be networking for that, when they should be interviewing for that, what the best opportunities for them would be to either interact with alumni or to actually interview for those particular positions and where they're going to source those roles. So it's really something that happens quite frequently. But I think it's always important for students to, before they start the program, really use that time when you're finishing up your old job and starting the program to really think about, what do I want to do? Where do I want to be a year from now? And utilize, as Bianca said, your own network. Start meeting with people, talking to people about the types of roles you might be interested in. Just the fact of interacting with your undergrad network, your current employers network, with friends and family, and having some of those, I could call them coffee chats, so those like pre-chats, and understanding what they do on an everyday basis and really understanding the types of roles that are out there is really helpful coming into the program, because it's great to know in the summer and preparing for recruiting that happens in the fall, to have that knowledge to understand the types of things you're interested in, rather than not understanding until midway through the process and you've missed some type of window. So yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I know I said a lot about that, but
well, if I could add in too,
please.
I think the really cool thing about the one-year program is, so you are the only class that's really on campus on the business school, like during the summer. So none of the 2 years are there. The undergrad BBAs aren't here. So you really kind of get the campus to yourself, and you really get that sort of personalized relationship you can with the CMC, with your professors. So you kind of form that relationship. So when you move into the fall and spring, the professors were very open about meeting with you and, remembering your name and kind of giving and offering advice throughout the year. So
you mentioned coming in, you had a pretty clear career goal. Did it change at all while you were in the program, or you kind of stuck with what?
Mine didn't really change as much. So coming from hospitalities, I really liked that industry, and so I kind of wanted to stay on that path. But I was very cognizant about just being narrow in that. So I did interview for a lot of different industries. So, banking, technology, CPG. So I really opened it up just to see, and it kind of really strengthened my, love for hospitality. So, I definitely was open to exploring other industries. I considered consulting for a while, but that was quickly a definite no for me. So you kind of realize, what your strengths are, what you thrive in, what you like, what you want to do. But that would be some advice that I offer is, go in there with an open mind, prepare yourself, just try other things and see where it leads you.
Yeah, that's a great benefit of the Career Management Center. Whether you have a clear goal or you're unsure, you do have that exposure to so many different industries and job functions and companies that are actively recruiting here that it will help you either confirm that, that what your idea is what you want to pursue or help you answer the question of what do I really want to do after this. So that's terrific. Keep the questions coming in, guys. We have some great ones that we've already answered. Don't be shy, and we'll keep answering them live on the air throughout the hour. So the next one that we have is another great one that was submitted, and it talks about recruiter expectations. So we've talked a lot from the student perspective and what they do and what they should expect. But we had a question from a viewer asking, what do recruiters actually expect of students?
Well, we, as the Career Management Center, are in the middle. So we're here to help our students, but we also realize that the relationships with recruiters are really important. So recruiters expect a lot. You're an MBA now. It's, they know that you have work experience, and so they expect students to be prepared, well qualified, able to talk on different topics. Different types of recruiting the recruiters have different expectations. So if we take consulting, for example, there's the expectation that students can be successful in a behavioral interview, talking about themselves and their past work experience, and that students need to be successful in a casing interview. So a casing interview is when the recruiter will ask a strategic problem of perhaps their industry or a different industry, and they want the student to explain to them how they would think through that problem and how they would solve it. So recruiters have very set expectations as to how an MBA should perform on those particular interviews, and those are things that we know at the Career Management Center and we share with students. So we clearly tell students for what they're interested in, the types of interviews that they need to be practicing and what they need to do to be successful in those interviews. And in turn, the recruiters expect our students to be prepared and to be ready to answer those questions. We've had companies that come here year after year. If you look at our employment report this year, you can look at the number of companies that come here and recruit or that we have relationships with, and those are really important to the Career Management Center because we want those companies coming back year after year, so we need to present prepared students. So there's definitely a high expectation for Goizueta students, and that's something we're really proud of.
That's great. Did you feel prepared when you were going on all those interviews where you were testing out kind of the different industries? Did you feel like you were able to adjust and pivot based on the type of interview you were getting?
Yeah, 100%. And that's, a lot of the summer when you're meeting with your coach, they kind of recommend and really prep you in creating star stories. So basically situation, the results that you got out of, certain tasks within your previous jobs. And so it really kind of helps you think about your achievements and, how you've done well and gotten to where you are today. And, those are the things that are going to be important when you're interviewing for new roles in these, awesome companies that are coming on campus.
That's great. So we have another great question that just came in. And it was about, again, touching a little bit back on the difference between 1 year and 2 year, but are there any kind of career resources, or probably better, career experiences that a student would forego or miss out on if they choose the 1 year program over the 2 year program?
Career.
Obviously, the internship is something that is a differentiator.
Yeah.
But is there anything else from a career standpoint?
Well, there's definitely certain industries that that work better with the 2-year program, because there are some industries that recruit for specific positions through an internship. So that's something to keep in mind. So when you're thinking, if you're choosing between the program and you are not like Bianca, who kind of has an idea of the industry she wants to be in, if you have no idea, maybe the 2-year would be a better fit. Or if you want to go into a particular industry and we know that that particular industry only recruits through their internship, then maybe the 2-year would be a better fit. So it's really important when you apply to a program that you're honest about what type of role, industry, function you're interested in, because then our admissions folks can also help guide you as to which program might be a better fit. Although it seems like the 1-year would be an easy solution, there are a lot of things that go into that decision, knowing, you know, kind of where you want to go, if that type of role, if they recruit, you know, for the 1-year program with that role, when they recruit, do you need an internship? So all of those questions are things that you should think about and talk to someone about before finalizing a decision between the 2 programs.
Great. So it's really a matter of you're not missing out on any resources or many opportunities. It's really about what are your career goals? Are there industries that are really going to require you to have that internship?
Exactly. It's not, resources are the same. And in fact, recruiters don't look at you any different for fall recruiting. So when second years come back on campus and join the 1-year class, as Bianca mentioned before, a recruiter doesn't really know if you're a 1-year or a 2-year, unless they specifically see accelerated program on your resume, or if they didn't meet you the prior year. So it's really important to understand what might be a better fit for you before, you know, specifically deciding on one program versus the other.
So we have another question that came in, and it touches on your recruiter and company relationships. So our students are international, they're coming from across the country. What job opportunities exist for folks who want to go back to where they maybe came from or explore a new city outside of Atlanta? Are our corporate partnerships and relationships all focused here?
No, definitely not. As I mentioned before, the 1-year class, we've seen in the last couple of years that they've wanted to be in the Atlanta market because we have so many great headquarters companies here, but we have students that pursue tech and want to be in San Francisco. We have students that want to be in LA. We have students that, you know, want to work in finance and be in New York. So it really depends. Again, everyone is an individual, and it depends where they want to be. Most recently, we've seen some students who are interested in working in consulting firms in their own country. So we have a student this year who will be in Mexico City with a top consulting firm. We have a student who will be in Paris at a top consulting firm. So as I mentioned, you just really need to communicate. A student needs to communicate with their coach and with the CMC what their objectives are, where they want to be, and then we use that information and our alumni network to really help students meet those goals.
Great. So we had another great question just come in. We touched on this a little bit, but it's specific to an industry. And keep submitting those questions, guys, because these are really great. So for a consulting role specifically, or maybe a finance role within a tech company, did those types of jobs require an internship?
No. So consulting firms, they recruit through internships, but they also recruit through full-time. So if you're interested in being a consultant, then either program could be a fit for you depending on what your background is. Tech company roles also are open to both internships as well as full-time recruiting. So both of those, if you have an interest and if you have, especially for the 1-year program, if you have some background in tech, or if you have if you have a strategy background that would fit well with consulting, that would be a good fit for you for the 1-year program.
Great. And then we had another question come in around reception. So that was one of the opportunities that you mentioned. There's a lot of employer receptions. It was talking about, the question is, how many employer receptions are there?
Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, that'd be great to hear from you.
Yeah.
I mean, did you
How
take
many did you go
advantage of
to?
employer receptions?
I did.
Presentations.
Yeah.
Mostly presentations.
Yeah, and it was, a lot of it was also that the employer would come on campus for, a reception or a networking night, and then would come back for on-campus interviews. So if you go to those reception nights and make contacts and, meet essentially the recruiters, you also have that follow-up period, and then, you kind of have that little edge going into the recruitment portion. God, I don't even remember, but I think in the fall there were at least one a week. There were at least a couple.
One that you went to, there would be one every night of the week.
Oh yeah. I was very involved in my time here. But yeah, it's a really good chance to even just meet people from the industry, see if it's something that you like, and their experience at the company. So there were also some off-campus networking events. So I know that, for example, IHG, there was something near the IHG office building. So it was kind of like a little happy hour where you can meet alumni who work there and
so
experience.
that's something we're doing more frequently. So in the springtime, we're having a lot of employer-specific events. So when we ask students to come in and share with us the companies they're interested in, if there are enough students interested in a particular company, we will set up some type of either happy hour, or we might set up a lunch with the alumni at that company, so students have the opportunity to network. So it's kind of nice. It's kind of flipping, where it's not the company coming to campus, it's us going to their campus, specifically in the Atlanta area. So we went to IHG and a couple other companies, UPS. I can remember that off the top of my head last spring, to allow students that were doing some of their recruiting in the springtime to have a great opportunity to meet with alumni and to network and get an idea of the types of roles that were available at that time.
That's great. So this actually touches on the next question that we just got in. We've talked a lot about opportunities that exist outside the classroom environment. We had a question come in, are there professional development opportunities built into the curriculum?
Well, the most obvious being professional development, which is the class that all students go through in the summer session. So that's the time where the 1 years are the only folks on campus, where you're going through a very rigorous curriculum, but we put that professional development class there so that you're sure to always kind of have recruiting at the back of your mind. And in those classes, we do things, everything from how to network, to practicing your STAR stories, as Bianca mentioned, to how to interview, to how to present yourself to employers, how to navigate a networking session or a presentation. So those things are built into the curriculum, so every student feels like they're prepared in the fall for when recruiting starts getting really busy. Throughout the year, we have different workshops. We have, this week I have to do a couple workshops on cover letters, because a lot of companies in this month have some deadlines for students. So we'll meet with students over lunch to make sure that their cover letters are on target and are speaking to their accomplishments, so that they have a better chance of getting on an interview list. And throughout the springtime, it really is dictated, the types of workshops and professional development we do is dictated by what the students need. So if we see a lot of students in a particular area that are having challenges, we will kind of focus on that area.
Okay, so we just had another great question come in. It's not something we've talked about yet.
Okay, then I'm giving this one to Bianca.
How do you help students who want to be entrepreneurs?
I can help.
Yeah. Oh, really? There we go.
Just thinking about some of my classmates, actually, who, we had a couple who were moving into the entrepreneur field. Some who had, family businesses that they were going back into. So, I mean, there are so many opportunities with there's something called Pitch the Professor, where you have, an entrepreneur professor. I think there's a finance who, you kind of do a presentation about your idea or your business model, and they will give you advice. They will, offer you suggestions for how to make that better or grow your model. And I think they even offer a chance for you to take, I think, a seat for maybe a month or two in the Atlanta Tech Village, kind of, grow your idea with the help and support of Emory. So those are just a couple that I can think of. But,
yeah, that's great. It's worth noting, too, that Atlanta has a pretty vibrant startup community. So the Atlanta Tech Village that Bianca mentioned is definitely a resource that budding entrepreneurs can take advantage of. So another question came in, and it was talking about student clubs. So we have a lot of student clubs for MBA students. Are those something that can be leveraged for job opportunities?
I'll talk first, and I'm sure you have a great perspective with student clubs. So our student clubs do a great job with helping students prepare for interviews. Specifically, there are functional clubs such as the finance club, consulting club, the marketing club. So these clubs oftentimes do additional professional development for students that are part of the club. So in particular, the consulting club spends a lot of time and resources in sharing best practices for consulting interviews and specifically casing interviews. So people that are in that club and have been successful in interviewing, they take the time to case with students that are preparing for those interviews. So it's actually pretty powerful. It's a great way to get to know the folks that are in the class ahead of you, as well as to learn all the tips and tricks you need to be successful in an interview situation. Clubs also share, they also have databases where they put together interview questions, so they know by company the types of questions that will be asked in the interview. As the CMC, we're not permitted to do that, but clubs do that, which is also something that is really helpful to students that are going through the interview process with a particular company. So those clubs we suggest, and even before students come to campus, when they're working on their resume, we suggest that you put those clubs on your resume, and that makes students feel very accountable to actually joining the club and going and participating because it's on their resume. And the clubs really help us do our job better too. So they're very highly valued by the CMC as well as obviously by students.
Any club advice or clubs you were involved with?
Yeah, so I was involved with the marketing club. So like Maureen said, the officers within the club really did a good job of putting together opportunities where you could practice marketing interviews. And then the same with GWIB, so Goizueta Women in Business. Both of those clubs were really cool in that they brought in alumni from, who were in GWIB in the previous year, so who were working at really awesome companies. So you can talk to other women who, graduated the program maybe recently, maybe a few years back, talk to them about their experience and how they got their jobs. So they really, it was a good mix of fun and getting to know a lot more of your classmates, especially being in the one-year program. You get so close with your class that when you merge in with the 2 years, it's this whole other group of people that leverage those people for their networks and their contacts. So you get to know a lot more people, and they do social activities, but also these professional activities too.
That's great. I'm just gonna, one last time, any other questions that you guys have, feel free to submit. We just have 1 or 2 left, and so if we don't get any more in, we'll just go ahead and wrap up early. So if you have any burning questions, now's the time to ask them. So this one I think I know the answer to, but
Okay,
I'm gonna let you tell our audience.
Sounds good.
How do you feel about students and their let me rephrase.
Okay.
Are students able to have a part-time job while in the one-year program?
Actually, this is best for you because you lived through the one-year program. Do you think people could have a part-time job?
Okay, so I had high hopes of being you know, it's hard going from a paycheck to nothing for you. I understand that. And I was like, oh, I'm definitely going to get a part-time job, especially once the fall comes and, you know, your schedule kind of opens up. It doesn't open up. You'll have class, but then you'll also have recruitment. You'll have social activities with your classmates that, you know, you're not going to want to miss out. You have international trips that you have the same amount of international trip opportunities as the two-year students. There's a ski trip that the students plan. So if you wanted to make it work to get a part-time job, you probably could, a couple hours here and there. But if your goal is to come into this program and be engaged and involved and really get forward in the career that you want, I'd say best not to get a part-time job and really just focus on school.
Yeah, probably better to focus those few available hours on leveraging career resources to find that full-time job that you're looking for.
Or catching up on Netflix, because you probably have more time too.
Oh, that too, of course, of course.
So what other advice in general? I mean, we've hit on pretty much, we've talked about functions, we've talked about industries, we've talked about whether you can or can't work in the job, we've talked about all the resources available. Is there anything that you feel that students who are thinking about the one-year MBA should know?
I would say, you know, it's overwhelming. This is kind of a really scary time thinking about going back to school. You don't really get the opportunity in your adult and career path to do something like this a lot. So I would say just be engaged, take full advantage of your resources. You've got the CMC who's like here to help you. You've got your classmates who are going through the same thing you're going through. Yeah, just be involved. And I think the biggest piece of advice that you hear a lot on campus is stay in your lane. Especially with the 1 year, it's easy to get on campus, go through fall recruitment, see people starting to get jobs even in, you know, October, November. I didn't get my job until April, about a month before graduating, and it's hard to not feel like you're behind or, you know, not keeping up with your classmates, but I got the exact job that I wanted, you know, so it's all about you and your career path and not really setting yourself up with your classmates and just kind of staying in your lane.
So we have great placement data, right? The number of students with job offers 3 months post graduation for the 1 year program is at 93%. The latest numbers for salary, $140,000 is the average. But a lot of hard work goes into that, both on your side and the student side. What do you have to tell students who are about ready to take this leap?
I think the most important thing to remember is that working with the CMC and working with students is a partnership. So those numbers, as you mentioned, do not come easily. It takes a lot of work on both ends, and it's important for students to remember that we're here to help you. We're here to give you data, to give you advice, to tell you what recruiters expect, to give you a lay of the land. And students, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be successful just because you listen. It also comes with a lot of time, energy, dedication, and practicing into really thinking. I think the most important for a student is to really think of what they want. And Bianca said it really well. Students get a little off the path sometimes because they start worrying about so-and-so got a job, I need to be doing that, I need to go to everything, and they really need to remember, you know, what they really want in their heart and the type of role that's really the best fit for them. So with really taking that time to reflect and think about what they want, as well as partner with the CMC, come in and visit your coach, come in and visit me, you know, come and practice with us, and we want to see your face. And we want to see you in the office, and taking the time in your day, in your busy schedule to do that will set you up for success.
That's great advice. Thank you, both of you, for all the great advice you've shared.
Sure.
I'm going to mention that for anyone interested in the 2 year program, Next month's chat, December 6th, we're going to talk about career success with Goizueta's 2-year MBA. We also have a couple other web chats coming up for special populations that might interest you. I have them on the screen here. So register for those. And once again, we'll be sending out the entire recording of this to you within about a week, along with any slides. If you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out directly. The information is on our website, goizueta.emory.edu, and you can get in touch with either someone from admissions that can answer your admissions questions or career-related questions as well. Thank you so much.